So when we figured out that breaking going to Olympics, I think the whole community was a little bit confusing.
I feel like there's also a feminist revolution happening in breaking, and I think that's very important.
Once breaking gets to the Olympics, the whole world is going to see it.
So this ain't going to be a history lesson about breakdancing. There's a lot to cover there, and we figured the chances are if you got this far and you're sat here watching this video, you have a pretty good idea of how it started anyway. Let's just say it's come a long way, and it's about to go a lot further.
Breakdancing has become an official Olympic event, the first dance sport to appear.
Breakdancing will become an official sport in the 2024 Paris Games.
Recently, the International Olympic Committee made some changes that will pave the way for new sports to be accepted into the Olympic Games. As part of the IOC's plan to look ahead to a more dynamic future for the Olympics, in 2020 it was agreed upon that the Paris Games in 2024 would include 4 new sports. These are skateboarding, surfing, sport climbing, and of course, you guessed it, breaking. So breaking will make its Olympic debut following its appearance in the 2018 Summer Youth Olympic Games down in Buenos Aires. Skating, climbing and surfing will remain on the Olympic programme for another Games following their debuts in Tokyo 2020. The IOC is keen to set a new standard for inclusive, gender-balanced and youth-centred games. Paris 2024 submitted its proposal to the IOC to integrate these 4 new sports as they are closely associated with youth and reward creativity and athletic performance. All 4 are easily accessible for most people and are very active on social media. Over the next 5 years, the inclusion of these events should inspire millions of youth to take up these sports. The Paris 2024 Games will also be the first Games with gender equality. This means there will be an equal number of male and female competitors. This is possible because the number of mixed-gender events has risen from 18 in Tokyo to 22 in Paris. Breaking is, of course, one of those 22. Today we are in Berlin to meet up with Brianna Pritchard, aka Snap One, an Olympic hopeful, a US military helicopter mechanic, mentor, and STEPPIX ambassador, to get her opinion on the future of breakdancing and in which way the Olympics will help influence it. We caught up with her as she was on her way to give a private dance lesson to bgirl Dilara, a Berlin local and a big Snap One fan. Dilara's mother had arranged this workshop. She had contacted Brianna in advance, knowing her daughter was a huge fan and that Brianna would be in Berlin that weekend to compete at the Queen's 16 event. So for Dilara, it was all a big surprise. On the way in, the STEPPIX team gave Brianna some awesome new merchandise to keep her fired up on her road to the Olympics.
This is the main message.
Yes, this is dope. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Man, there's so much stuff. Yes.
This also for you.
So this is a perfect example of the direction that breakdancing is going in, and how Brie is an advocate for the progressive nature of the sport. She wants to help others. She wants the sport to expand, but in the right direction.
Oh, I like the
She is also very focused on teaching other bgirls. She feels that it is very beneficial for bgirls to be taught by other bgirls, as they understand the female frame, its strengths, its balance, its flexibility. We took this opportunity to ask Dilara's mother, Viola, why she is so encouraging of our daughter's interest in breakdancing and what she does to support her.
Es war verschollen eine Zeit lang und jetzt, denke ich, ist wieder ein Hype da. Es machen sehr, sehr viele Kinder, jedenfalls von Berlin, wie ich es weiß, es machen sehr viele Kinder wieder Breakdance. In der Schule, wo meine Tochter ist, ist alles ausgebucht, da gibt es keine Kurse mehr frei, wo Kinder jetzt noch mitmachen könnten, sodass ich denke, es ist wieder der Hype da, es kommt auch wieder, auch dank der alten Legenden, Stars, die auch bereit sind, jungen Talenten was beizubringen, für sie da zu sein. Von daher denke ich, es entwickelt sich jetzt wieder positiv, da es doch eine Zeit lang vergessen war, durch den Hip-Hop. Ich unterstütze meine Tochter sehr und auch der Vater, weil wir einfach finden, dass Breakdance diese Gemeinschaft schafft unter den Kindern. Es ist weniger Konkurrenzkampf, es ist ein Miteinander, es ist natürlich ein Betteln, es geht auch um Konkurrenz, es geht auch darum, natürlich besser zu sein wie die anderen, aber es ist alles in einem Rahmen, der wirklich, ja, wie ich sagen würde, einfach auch gegen Mobbing und solche Arten vorgehen kann, weil eben es in diesem Bereich dieses nicht gibt. Die Kinder betteln nicht gegeneinander und sagen, wir sind die Besten, wir haben die besten Marken, wir haben dieses, sondern da geht es ums Können und wer gut ist, der ist dann gut. Und da ist es egal, was man anhat, wer man ist, wer die Eltern sind, wie viel Geld man hat oder aus welcher Stadt man kommt. Ich sehe sie überall, wo sie sich sehen wird als Tänzerin. Wenn sie Trainerin werden möchte, irgendwann später, dann wird sie das machen. Wenn sie nochmal eine andere Richtung einschlägt, dann traue ich ihr das auch zu, dass das passieren könnte. Aber ich denke, sie wird sich im Breakdance versuchen zu etablieren, je älter sie wird und wird versuchen, wirklich dort ihren Weg zu finden. Und da werde ich sie immer bei unterstützen.
I think we can all agree that Viola's support and dedication to her daughter's chosen route in life is nothing short of astounding.
Ich tanze ungefähr seit 3 Jahren. Erst habe ich Streetdance und Hip-Hop gemacht, aber damit habe ich dann aufgehört, weil es war nicht so eine Gemeinschaft, es war eher nur Konkurrenzdenken und ja. Einfach dieses, obwohl man gegeneinander tanzt, ist es wie eine Gemeinschaft. Ich habe bei der Deutschen Meisterschaft gemerkt, dass ich eine besondere Gabe im Breakdance habe. Davor ist es mir nie wirklich aufgefallen, davor war es wirklich nur mein Hobby. Als ich heute von Brianna überrascht wurde, war es sehr schön. Ich war am Anfang sehr nervös, aber es wird dann halt immer besser. Der Workshop mit Brianna war richtig schön. Also ich konnte viele neue Dinge lernen, als von einem Jungen etwas zu lernen. Es war sehr anders. Sie hat mir sehr viele Tipps gegeben und es hat mir auch sehr geholfen. In der Zukunft sehe ich mich immer noch beim Breakdance halt und beim Battle. Ich glaube, ich werde natürlich viel besser sein. Ich werde immer noch auf Battles gehen und vielleicht auch anderen Kindern helfen, auch auf Battles gehen zu können. Also ich habe die STEPPIX-Matte seit höchstens einem halben Jahr, also ich habe sie noch gar nicht lange. Und sie hat mir halt geholfen, weil wenn ich draußen trainiere, muss ich nicht mehr auf hartem Boden trainieren und ja, das hilft halt beim Training.
The future of breaking surely depends on people like this. For Dilara, growing up in the metropolitan and multicultural city of Berlin, while there are no shortage of performing art studios and dance schools mixed with Berlin's infamous underground hip-hop and techno scenes, there were many opportunities to pursue an interest in breaking. For Brie, on the other hand, it was a very different story altogether.
So coming from Alaska, it being far away and isolated, it doesn't really have a whole lot of hip hop. And so when I finally did travel to the States and the rest of the world and really delve into the hip hop culture, I think maybe that's why I appreciate it so much, is because I didn't have that. I wasn't able to walk down the street and just see graffiti everywhere. My history with breaking and the hip hop culture started about 15 years ago. I saw some kids doing it in my high school traditional lunchtime practice, and I was initially drawn to it because I loved the music and the athleticism, and I figured that the athleticism would be the way that I could finally be able to dance to the music. But prior to that, I grew up being an athlete for hockey and softball, kind of more like conservative, if you will, very common way of growing up in the area that I was around. And so like breaking and the hip hop culture was not a common thing. So starting the kind of conservative, if you will, way, and then get thrown into hip hop and breaking, really a whole different kind of a world, right? And then about 5 years later, I joined the military and then kind of go back to like the conservative type of world, or more like the right-wing type of lifestyle. And so I've kind of like bounced back and forth between the two worlds. I've been able to learn about both different cultures. Military, you learn discipline and hard work, camaraderie, working for your team. But then on the hip hop side of things, you learn how to be open-minded. Respect is earned and not given.
That's the way it's got to be.
Yo, what's up everybody? This is Menno. Welcome to STEPPIX, and today we're gonna start with some back rock variation.
So I was first introduced to STEPPIX. I actually saw them on social media, and I thought that their concept of the mat and having the numbers and the letters and like teaching people how to break that way was just like revolutionary, and it's such a good idea. And so I had followed them for a long time and supported their content and their idea. And then shortly after I discovered STEPPIX is when I went on a deployment to Iraq in 2021. And it's very isolated. You can imagine there isn't really good dancing conditions there. For a long time, I was either dancing in my room that was not a good floor and really, really small, or I could dance in like the gym that was around, which was actually just plywood with nails with a tarp on top. So was not good conditions at all. And of course, I knew of STEPPIX, and I was like, you know what? I think their mat would be perfect from the situation that I am in right now. And so I got a hold of the guys at STEPPIX and told them my situation, because also too, I figured like shipping to Iraq would probably be a difficult thing to do. But they bent over backwards, and it just took everything to a whole new level. It was exactly what I needed, and I was able to get so much better in the space that I had. It made the space that I had possible to actually be able to dance again. And so we built this bond, and you know, I asked what that meant. What do you mean support me, you know, even further? Well, what I come to understand with them is that they saw the hard work that I was putting in, and you know, it should be rewarded and supported. And that's one of the big things that this company does, not just for me, but for others. They want so badly to reward the people who are putting in the work. And that's kind of a big difference between companies like that are actually supporting the athlete compared to like big monopolizing companies where they just want to, you know, exploit and don't really care as much about the person personally.
As we mentioned earlier, Brie is in Berlin this weekend to compete at the Queen 16 dance event, which is an international hip-hop and urban dance festival created by women for women. The festival is now in its 7th year. Usually held in Leipzig, it has now for the first time come to the nation's capital. With similar events around the globe that are counted towards a potential competitor score via a point system coming up very soon on the way to the Olympic qualifiers, Brie was keen to make the journey to Berlin to get some competition practice in. Breaking is also going through a female revolution right now, way after Brie began her breaking career back in 2007. With its inclusion in the Paris Games and having an equal number of b-boys and b-girls, it's clear that the sport is not just progressing with its popularity with males, but is also breaking new boundaries with its influence over females.
I feel like there's also a feminist revolution happening in breaking, and I think that's very important to have like the female energy also visible and more appreciated. So I'm really looking forward to that. But I think it's very important for the people that are now teaching or becoming teachers or giving the culture to the next generation. It's very important to not forget about the origins and about the spirit of hip-hop.
With an increase in young women taking up breaking, there is now a gap in the market for teachers and trainers. They can offer something that the male teacher can't. And for Dilara, it was noticeably different being taught by Brie over her usual male instructors.
Von einem bgirl unterrichtet zu werden ist viel besser als von einem b-boy unterrichtet zu werden, weil ein bgirl kann einem die Tipps geben, die ein b-boy dir nicht geben kann. Weil Brianna auch ein bgirl ist, konnte sie mir auch zeigen, zum Beispiel bei Footworks mache ich meine Hand meistens flach auf dem Boden, und sie hat mir gezeigt, dass es, wenn ich es so mache, dass es viel schwieriger ist für mich, die Schritte zu machen, und sie hat mir halt gezeigt, wenn ich die Hand anders aufsetze, geht das schneller auch mit meiner Hüfte. Und das hat mir auch sehr geholfen.
This is something that Brie is very aware of, and it's where she sees her own personal future in the sport. Not only teaching girls how to dance, but overall health, fitness and strength training.
I want to be a coach for breaking, and not just another breaking coach to teach more breaking. For me, I want to be a strength and conditioning coach so that I can teach breakers how to effectively cross-train, how to eat right, recover, mobility, all the things that weren't afforded to nearly any of us when we were coming up. And every time I travel everywhere, it's amazing to me, a concept that I knew about coming up as an athlete on how to eat right, recover, mobility, and how to cross-train, lift weights, do sprints, run, all of that. I grew up with all of that, but not everybody does, and it's so beneficial to being an artistic athlete because you are both an athlete of which you have to train your body. Another thing that we need to consider in the future, what a possibility is take gymnastics, for example, where there are training facilities and teams all over the United States. It's also a collegiate sport, so therefore it is in colleges where you can get scholarships and go to all these places. If we do it correctly, breaking can be that. Wouldn't it be amazing if you could get a scholarship to go to a college for breaking? Like, these are the kinds of things that we need to think about that very much could be possibilities that goes outside of, you know, just winning Red Bull BC1 or winning a freestyle session and then landing a deal with Nike. That would be great too. That's another avenue, but we need to think outside of the box, all of the other possibilities that could happen.
So with the advancement of breakdancing in modern society, from its Olympic debut to its fast-growing female fan base, it's clear that the expansion of the sport will have huge repercussions on the culture itself. This has some people concerned that it may outgrow itself. But if we look to other sports that are heavily culture-based, like surfing, skateboarding and snowboarding, the growth for the most part has been positive.
So sports like skateboarding and snowboarding, they're good examples as to what can happen to more of like a street sport or a street culture after they reach a level like the Olympic platform. Did they need the Olympics to get big? No, they already had stuff like X Games and Monster competitions, like all these competitions throughout the world. But it's similar to the Olympics in the sense that once breaking gets to the Olympics, the whole world is going to see it. Everybody watches the Olympics, so they're going to be able to see that. And then that's going to give more platforms.
It's clear that most people have a positive outlook for the future of breaking. While we were at the Queen 16 event to support Brie, we took a moment to ask some other breakers in attendance their opinion on where they thought breaking was headed and how they felt about it.
I think there's a lot of change happening in the breaking scene right now, and I feel like there is kind of two movements happening. So there's like one direction going into this more sporty side of breaking, and then another more like keeping it kind of real and going back to the basics and to the origins of hip hop. Let's say with that, and also in regards of what is happening with the Olympics and having more bgirls represented, because it's more visible, right?
Even the younger generation of dancers are aware that we must move forward carefully to preserve the culture of breaking and hip-hop, especially when it comes to crew battles.
I think we have to be a bit careful that we don't make hip-hop and breaking an ego thing, because now we have a lot of one-to-one battles. And I feel like the community and the crews and bros and that kind of stuff kind of gets a bit like into the back, and I feel like I think it would be nice to have also more crew battles and more crew events and yeah.
Nothing's gonna change his way.
This is not the first time that big changes have occurred in the breaking scene. For some of the older b-boys and b-girls, they have seen the sport progress over the last 20 years. From the Asian influence to how the internet helped shape modern breakdancing.
Yeah, so like I'm dancing 20 years and we have like, for this time we have so many big changes. So when I start, I was, in the beginning it was like USA dominating and like was the best because it came from there. And after we see like a big Europe scene growing up, and after 2000, I think the Asia, like Korea and Japan, like coming in the break into the battle of the year and start dominating in the scene. And after we get like this new event like IB is coming, it was really game changer event. And also after that, there is so many more like new event was coming, and we got internet coming up. So internet basically was a big game change. So if you remember, there was Style 2.0, like there was a old website, and there was before YouTube, like they posting their videos. And after we have the bboy world, the biggest forum for the breaking video. This was a really like a big game changing. And what was there, like the 2010, there was a big power move rise up one again, like we have this WPS big power move event, and of course the Red Bull BC one like was big game changing. Of course we have like ups and up downs and fall downs sometimes, but now we get, for the last couple years, I think we're going up like really good. So now we're not under the top of the hour wave, we're still going, but for now everything is good. So when we figured out that breaking going to Olympics, like I think the whole community was a little bit confusing. Some guys were really happy about that, like directly, and some people was really like don't know where it could go, where it could bring us. So now I'm sure it's like a really good step for the breaking. I'm sure in Olympic it's gonna be really great. I was thinking maybe it's gonna be the best thing what's gonna happen in Olympics. And after that, I think we have a good, like a new wave.
So bboy Funt has only high expectations for breaking becoming part of the Olympics. He has been around for long enough that his opinion carries some serious weight. With this kind of input from the older b-boys, it is not surprising that the younger generation are really excited to see breaking enter the Olympics for the first time.
Also ich finde das sehr gut, dass Breakdance bei den Olympischen Spielen sein wird, weil dadurch werden viele Leute darauf aufmerksam und es ist halt jetzt eine Sportart. Es wird als Sportart anerkannt und nicht mehr nur als irgendeine Tanzrichtung.
For the older b-boys and b-girls, these changes come with certain risks and responsibilities, as Brie explains.
With breaking going into the Olympics, it definitely has some mixed views, both in and outside of the culture. Outside of the culture, viewers may think, oh, that's ridiculous that breaking is going into the Olympics. And then those within our culture think that perhaps breaking going to the Olympics may exploit the craft and might lose some of its artisticness and it being a culture. It's really up to us inside of the culture to make sure that it doesn't get exploited and that it doesn't get used and abused just for the money and whatnot, and then it just gets shoved to the side. Similar to what happened in the 80s, where it was used by the media, it got so popular, it was a piggy bank for all the corporations, and when they got what they wanted, it just got pushed to the side, and the rest of the world thought that it died, but we all knew that it was still thriving. Now, with breaking going to the Olympics, we have the opportunity for the whole world to see this sensation again, and that is going to come with more opportunities within our culture, and not just for the athletes, not just for the breakers who are going to be going to that Olympic stage. It means so much more. It's going to provide so many more job opportunities within the culture. We're going to have more interview opportunities for camera work, filming work. We're going to need more art people to design the real hip-hop culture things. We are going to need, and not even just in the breaking and hip-hop aspect, we're going to need more professional people within this. But we're going to need talent agents who understand breaking, who understand the hip-hop culture. We are going to need nutritionists and trainers, physical trainers who actually understand breaking, because it's obviously different from football and gymnastics. We're going to need people to be a part of this. So like I really feel that within this culture, we need to understand that one, it is up to us to make sure that it's represented the way that we want it to be represented, so that it doesn't die again, get lost in translation. And I think that we need to realize that there's going to be a lot of opportunities where people can make a living from this. And again, it's more than just going and being the actual competitor and the champion. If we make it to the Olympics, like, we're all going to win.
Breaking has seen exponential growth over the last decade, to the point now where it's reached the Olympic platform. Imagine asking street dancers back in New York in the 70s if they ever thought breaking would reach such high levels. As we have learned, people are positive about it, but that's not to say they don't understand the risks. This is a really important factor when any kind of art form or sport sees rapid growth. that people treat it with respect, and the people on the ground need to be guiding its future path. But is the Olympics such a big deal, really? Would the sport grow without it? Would it die without it? Brie offers her final words on the subject.
The Olympics is not the end-all be-all. There's still going to be jams. There's still going to be, get-downs and get-togethers. Take skateboarding, for example. It's another street art, a street culture, and it's in the Olympics. But people still get down in like the California bowls and still dress the way that they're comfortable with and have their own slang and whatnot. Breaking is going to be no different. Hip-hop is going to be no different so long as we make sure that it doesn't die.